Hi guys. Hi.
Hey.
Hi. So I'm Mel, and this is Dean, and we are Maxwell and Shirley. And so thanks so much for joining us tonight, and for learning a bit more about us and what we do, and interiors, and all sorts of things like that. So yes.
So a little bit background. Does everybody know you on this field?
Some do, some don't. I am a senior academic here at Billy Blue, and my background's in interior architecture, both commercial and residential, and all those sorts of things as well. I feel like I've been here for a really long time. And so on the then we Maxwell and Shirley together as well, basically. So yeah.
So I guess from my side, I'm Dean Cotter, so I'm the Maxwell of Maxwell and Shirley.
Oh yeah, they're not our real names.
They're our aliases.
Yes.
So together, Melissa and I have the practice, Maxwell and Shirley.
Yeah.
We both come from similar backgrounds, but we both work with full-time positions outside of our gig of Maxwell and Shirley.
Yeah, which keeps us very busy. So we've been practicing together for about 2 years, just on 2 years. We actually met and became friends through working as juniors together for an architecture firm based up in Newcastle. We're both from Newcastle. So we sort of spent so much time talking about what it is that we really loved about design and art and architecture and all those sorts of things. And we decided to sort of try and make an income stream out of it, basically.
I think the thing is we're always talking design anyway, so
always.
It was just such a natural progression to sort of start doing it as a thing that we would get commissions and do design for other people. Then we're getting a few questions coming in, so maybe we should jump into them.
Yeah. So why are we called Maxwell and Shirley? This is a good story.
The hard-hitting one from the start.
So when we met, we were just out of uni, as I said, working as juniors at the same architecture firm, and we had these terrible, beautiful, but terrible and heartbreaking, we call them post-prestige cars, and mine was a 94 3 Series BMW that was all gold, and her name was Shirley. And Dean had...
Should we say why it was Shirley?
Oh yeah, because Shirley Bassey sang Goldfinger. So, gold car, Goldfinger, all the things. Yeah.
And I drove a matching 1995 Audi A4 that was dark green where the paint was still sticking to it. And its name was Maxwell after Maxwell Smart, nothing ever went right for him. Fortunately, Maxwell and Shirley hasn't proved to be as perilous as our cars at that point. But they were much beloved cars, and they were a part of us and how we started. So.
Yeah, totally. And actually a big reason as to why we actually started spending lots of time together as well, because we just kept fixing cars. So that was sort of, and so now most stuff that we do that's creative is underneath that sort of moniker. So yeah.
Oh, here's a good question. What project are you most proud of?
That's a really good question, actually. A really, really good one. I think that there's a project that we have that we've finished not too long ago, but we don't really want to give too many details away about it. But basically, we had these clients who had this beautiful home. And who just weren't really sure how to live in it. It's almost like they were intimidated by the architecture of their own space, and sort of felt very nervous about putting a foot wrong in their own living environment.
And would sort of say things to us like, I'm just not too sure what to do with this space, or I haven't been able to buy things that I like for here yet because I just don't know what's going on. And then so through having conversations with them and through really getting to know how it is that they actually wanted to live in that space and all their sort of lifestyle stuff around that as well, we were sort of really, really happy to be able to help them live in a space that now they're completely sort of besotted with, and it's just they spend lots and lots and lots of time at home in that space. And they just, it was actually one of the things I really liked about it was there was a time we went over there because we did the fit out in a series of stages and different commissions, and we went back there after the first one had been completed, and all the furniture was just sort of moved around and in different places to where we sort of suggested things to go, and you know, the client was just saying, oh, I decided to move it over to here because this is where I am in the sun in the morning. You know, it's just little narratives of how they were living with the furniture, and that's just kind of gets to the key of what we try to create in terms of our sort of design ethos is that essentially the design process in selecting the furniture or the finishes is just like the very start of it. The real moment of design is when that's all singing and active in that space.
Yeah.
People are using those furnitures. That's for us the moment that excites us about design.
Yeah, totally. And I think that we have a really interesting sort of point of view because we work as both stylists for photo shoots in homes, and then we also work as interior designers for clients as well. So for us, there has to be this real difference between, you know, what looks good for a photo shoot isn't necessarily how people are going to live in their home. And so for us, it's all about how people actually live in their home and how that sort of continues to move without us actually being involved, which is sort of perfect, is exactly what we want people to feel like in their own homes. We never want someone to feel like they should be scared to move a coffee table because we told them to put it there. You know, that's so not the point. So So okay, so where do we get our inspiration from? God.
It's kind of a nice little dovetail question, actually. Yeah. Popped up at the right time. Because I think the inspiration comes from the client. You know, each job's different. You know, we don't have a specific strong aesthetic that's Maxwell and Shirley. I mean, I guess that's not to say that we sort of apply, you know, these far out different concepts on each project and you sort of pick whatever's going. But I think the client really drives where our design inspiration comes from.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's really important for us that is where that comes from as well, you know, so that like we said, you know, the client's the person who's going to live in it at the end. And so, you know, if they're not if we're not listening to them appropriately, then they're not going to be happy with their space and our job has not been done correctly. So, it really has to come from the client.
And it also means that our brief changes, you know, like each time because of that. We're not just doing the same thing, the same fit out of the, you know, a lounge room in a different house. It's actually coming around from the way people live in their space. And that sort of drives our inspiration of what we provide for them.
Yeah,
you know?
Totally. Yeah.
And it takes it beyond your personal aesthetic too.
Yes. It's actually really interesting. I would say that Dean and I have, we say all the time, we have complementary but very different personal aesthetics. So Dean really knows how to clean a room, and I do not have that skill. So and so I think that it's, you know, our drive as Maxwell and Shirley is to sort of, I think because we have such different aesthetics, it's really important for us to really recognise the aesthetic in the client and make sure that we're sort of meeting them as well.
Definitely.
So
Yeah.
So yes, I have a question back here somewhere. Where is it? How closely do we work with architects on projects? So this varies from project to project. And it depends on what type of project we're doing. Like I said, because we sometimes work as stylists on a photo shoot, and then sometimes we work as interior designers and specifiers. So it really depends on the type of project. Photo shoots are very, very, very fast. We once got a brief to do a house in 3 days. So that was very fast.
And the background to doing that is you have to pull together the furniture for it and for a period of time. So it's a combination of, you know, rating your friends' favourite pieces. Or the majority does come from, you know, amazing suppliers, which is so important to build up that connection with industry like that. That you're able to be able to call your contact and say, you know, that lounge that we specified, you know, 2 projects again, we really need something for this photo shoot.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not typically lounges. I think that we should make that clear. That's a very difficult thing to borrow from a industry partner.
It's a very difficult thing to carry.
But small objects that, you know, really sort of can make a feature of a space and make a shot work really well.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And whether that be sort of accessories, like for instance dinosaur designs, or, you know, we do different stuff with different plants or different armchairs, or sort of all different sorts of things. So
I guess the closeness of architects there, I guess we should probably flush out a little bit. So in terms of a photo shoot, let's just go through different scenarios and talk about how we would work with architects in that situation. And I guess from the premise of all this, we should make it clear I am a registered architect. So Maxwell and Shirley does avoid doing architecture as our remit as much as we can, because we need to know our market that is styling and interior design. Yeah.
And so, for instance, Maxwell and Shirley has done a project for Dean for a building that he's done. So
it's great being your own client, you know.
But we don't practice architecture within our particular practice. But the styling stuff, it all sort of really depends on the architect and what it is they're actually wanting out of a shoot as well. You know, some architects want photos just for websites, some of them want them for competition, they might want night shots and day shots and all sorts of things. So basically they will quite often send us all the drawings, we'll get in and have a look at the space, quite often with them as well, get a really good idea of what sorts of things they're wanting to highlight. Sometimes the photographer's there on that visit, sometimes they're not.
And that's really critical, that highlighting of how we actually make the selections for that photo shoot.
Because like I said, sometimes it can be really fast. So we have to be really confident in the decisions that we're making around that as well. So
What is it, the key things that the architects want to get out of that photo shoot? And then and also sometimes that can be conflicting to the quality of light and the time of day if it's a limited time. So there's lots of factors you've got to work through with that. So working with the architect in that styling photo shoot gig, it's so important to work with the photographer at the same time, that everybody's aware of what's going to happen on that day, because you don't want to go down the path of, you know, committing to your architect that this is how we're going to style it and we've got it all sorted, and you arrive with the photographer and they're like,
this is not going to work.
Unless you want it to look dark and dingy.
So quite often one of us is on site when we do a photo shoot as well, even if that might be all day. So it just means that we're building up really good rapport with the photographer, and we're making sure that they're getting the shots that they've been briefed to get, because really it's our job to make those photos look great. So that's sort of what styling those spaces comes down to.
Any small, there's lots of small adjustments that just need to happen while the photographer's there, and it's almost on the day of styling we're almost the assistants to the photographer. The way I would sort of position our role on that day.
Totally.
So that's probably the styling side of thing. I guess then we go into interior design, and we could, I guess there's two sides of that again, isn't there? There's sort of the selections of finishes and getting involved in the space, and then there's also the sort of post-completion of the space and selection of furniture and other selections.
And so most of our work has been in not necessarily working, so most of our work for interior design has been not necessarily working with an architect, but working with the end user, with the client. We have had a couple of projects where we've worked in specifying finishes and things like that as well, and so in that case, you know, we get together with the architect before anything happens, before anything is built, I mean, and, you know, we put, you know, all the mood boards together, and we put sort of samples together, and we do stuff like that. And so so it's actually a really great process, being the two of us and then working with different architects and different sets of clients as well, because like we just keep coming back to, it just means that aesthetic gets to change all the time.
That's right.
All the time, which is really important to us.
And then did we flush out sort of when we're just doing pure selections with the involvement with the architect? There's not usually a great deal in that stage when we come back in after the the piece where the building's been handed over.
Yeah.
I guess the nice thing about that though is that the clients become more aware of their space at that time.
Yes.
So you're not so much trying to meet a chair that just fits this space. You start to talk more about how they're living in the space.
Yeah.
So in that scenario, it's almost the relationship with the architects are very minimum, and it just really gets really onto the client side.
Yeah. And I have to say, there's nothing better than taking a client shopping,
Yeah.
and seeing their faces. They sit in something that they've seen, and like we've shown them images of stuff, and they get really excited about the image and really excited about the idea behind it. And then when they actually sit in the piece of furniture and their faces melt a little bit, and they realise how much they love their new piece of furniture, then all that sort of stuff's really exciting. Really exciting. So we've got another one here on who are some of our favourite designers and curators that inspire us.
Oh.
This is like, we need another whole section so we can talk about that for half an hour instead.
I think you need to narrow that down a little bit. So let's just go with designers.
Yep.
And what should we say for residential practice?
Yeah. I think that I'm really passionate about making sure that people generally don't think that interior styling comes second tier to interior design or to architecture. You know, like there is so much that stylists do, and it's part of interiors that I just really love. You know, so for me, you know, some really amazing stylists are people like Sabella Court, and the way she does curate a space is just, it's phenomenal.
So layered.
Yeah, like my brain just explodes every time I see a space that she's done. You know, it's so multifaceted and so layered. You know, so it's I would definitely list her as a massive.
Yeah. Massive influence.
Yeah, massive influence. Sorry, stop talking. Yeah, massive influence. I started thinking about Sabella Court spaces and just tuned out.
But then I guess you know, the flip side of that, like I think, you know, would be when some modernist designers that have really inspired us. Like, you know, I'm thinking late modernism.
Yeah.
Aileen.
Yes, yeah. So thinking through people like Eileen Gray, who practiced in Europe, you know, at the same time as like big names like Le Corbusier and people like that were doing it. And, you know, she was a furniture designer and an industrial designer and an interior designer and an architect. You know, she was all these sorts of, you know, she was Renaissance woman for architecture, basically. So, you know, people who really approach design, I guess, people who really approach design in like a sort of all-in fashion. Pardon me, you know?
Yeah, and that they see a problem and they're like, right, well, let's do a product design to fix that as well, you know? Like, I think that's next level, you know, type of stuff. And it's funny, the similarities that you see with what Sabella Court does with her range and then how she markets herself through a shop and then the production lines that she designs. So, you know,
totally.
like, I think there's two incredible women in different decades.
Yes,
you know,
totally. Yeah.
I mean, we could get even more diverse, but I'm glad we should. There's probably a few more questions we need to get to.
There's one here on whether you're working in residential or commercial, you need different skills. You certainly need different approaches, let me put it that way. So, you know, working in commercial, you're dealing with a client that's not necessarily emotionally tied to a space. You're dealing with a client that's dealing with their own sort of information around budgets, and you know, you might be dealing with a whole board of people or a whole, you know, community of people, and it's a completely different practice, basically. But then when you're dealing with residential, you are dealing with people who are really emotionally tied to what it is that they're doing, you know, and it's becomes something that's deeper, and you have to, I feel like, you know, with my background in commercial, I feel like I have to really take the time to make sure I'm being more sensitive to residential clients and what it is that they feel around the space. That's a really big thing.
There really is so few professions that you get so personally close to your client.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, their morning routine to that level.
Yeah,
you know, like
it's really true.
So that's one of the amazing things about what we do.
Yeah.
So I guess that side of the residential is really something that is a skill set that needs to be so personable.
Yeah.
That this isn't just a business decision of, I guess, if you went down to the commercial side, you know, there's the classic sort of 3 schemes that you sort of put out.
Yes,
one that's, you know, well, 2 that's on budget, one's just a little bit more that you squeeze a few extra things in.
You hope to God they go for the third one. Yeah.
So, you know, there's more to it. There's more complexities.
Yeah.
And those complexities evolve too. The longer you're with your client, you get to understand those.
Yeah,
So,
totally.
So do you need a different skill set? Yes. But I think, you know, an interesting thing about our practice and some of the feedback that we've been given by suppliers of one particular store.
Yeah, at Jardin here in Sydney, they're in Paddington, but they're everywhere and they're amazing.
I didn't know if this was like ABC.
Yeah.
No plugging or something. Starts with a J, has a pink stare.
Google it, you'll look it up.
You know, made some comments that, you know, our decision-making process is always very clear. And that's something they really enjoy about, you know, working with us when we're doing selections. And I think that comes from...
Yeah, from the commercial background, basically. Yeah, we were described as being all on or all off. and I think that totally comes from our background in commercial.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if you're standing in front of a group of people that are about to sink, you know, lots of money into something that's, you know, giant, then you have to be really decisive and you have to know what you're doing, you have to back yourself. So I think that it's really interesting that we've actually managed to bring that into a residential sphere.
Yeah.
So yes. So what else have we got? Favorite designers, we've done that one. How did we start our career as interior designers? Okay, so I studied interior architecture, and I studied here in Sydney and wasn't planning on moving back to Newcastle, and then a job came up at Suitors Architects, who are now DWP, I just decided to take that. My parents lived there and my sister was there, and I like going to the beach all the time. The Suitors office was right next to the beach. All those decisions you make, you know, in your early 20s.
That's right. Lifestyle. And coincidentally, I had finished my undergraduate degree at Newcastle University in architecture, and had been awarded a design award that was sponsored by Suitors Architects at the time, and with that came the offer of a position. So who should Melissa find in the fire stair on her first day?
Yep.
So, and then from there, so we worked, probably, because that would
have been 2008, maybe 2009.
Okay. So I'd been there a few years prior to that.
Yeah.
So then we had sort of 2 years pretty much working together.
Yeah.
Well, not together, working for the same firm.
Yes.
We worked on very few projects together at that firm. So just a different scale of things. But so I guess that's how we sort of got our first gigs, and that was putting your CV out to places.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Interviews, which is what I was doing at the time, but I was lucky to get that sort of essentially an award, and I think that's something that's probably really beneficial to know as a student, is that, you know, people are looking at your work you're producing. That, you know, they're going to want to see what your capabilities are, and if they like what they see, that's like your first step in.
Yes,
so
totally.
The question there leads on to, you know, do you need to start from an internship? I don't think that's the case. I think you can get a lot of experience just by targeting specific firms. And if you've got some people that really inspire you, they're doing nice stuff, contact them.
And tell them. You know, and contact them in a way that's personal. You know, don't like send them bunches of flowers and stuff, because that would be weird.
Maxwell and Shirley advice.
Send us flowers, that's fine.
Bottle of wine, still not okay.
But you know, like, so, you know, make an effort, send someone an email, and then
say my graduating exhibition's coming up.
Yeah. Please come along. You know, or like, here's a sample of my work. You know, let me know if you want to, you know, meet up, or and then follow up with a phone call. You know, like, just put yourself out there and really make sure that you're backing yourself. You know, so yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I think there was a bit more in that about a portfolio, but I think that's all part of, if you're making contact, have a meaningful contact in what you make.
Yeah.
And then, they're probably going to want to see some of your work.
Yep.
But don't disclose it all.
Yeah.
Because
they've
got to come for a reason.
Yeah. Don't give everything away too soon. But yeah, and I think, like so much of interiors, so much of the industry is talking to people.
Yeah.
And it's like, and you don't have to be the most extroverted person in the room to make that happen.
Yeah.
You can be the person who just wants to pick 2 or 3 people to talk to. But I think that it's so much about, getting out to showrooms and speaking to people in showrooms and, getting to know who they know and, going to events and, I remember being really nervous as a junior and going to events and thinking, I don't know anybody here, like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
And, and I mean, we had some interesting times at events as juniors.
But Akira rug was just facing so long.
There were no rugs harmed in the making of our careers. It's fine. And so, I think that, you really do sort of think to yourself, all these people are so like this, and so how do I get to there? And you've just got to talk to people, just be personable and be polite, and
Yeah, which links in so well to that next one that I can see there. How to seek out new clients as an emerging designer.
Yeah.
It's like just start with those contacts that you've had. It's funny, I guess our first project as styling was really one of our self projects that came from that we one of our house my house that I had been building at the time.
Yeah.
And we styled it out for a photo shoot.
Yeah.
And
that
gave us, a skill set that there it was. We can do this. We can,
totally. And I think that was
deliver.
also really handy because we learned a lot that day, and we didn't necessarily charge anybody for learning that. So
that's exactly it.
But I think that's a really just get stuff done and get it photographed, even if you photograph it yourself. There's so much stuff that, if we don't have it photographed by, proper photographers, we might shoot stuff ourselves or just on iPhone and just put some nice filters on it and just make sure it looks beautiful, just so we've got at least social content, So,
Yeah, because there's behind the glamorous projects, there's always smaller scale ones, and there's a moment in there that you can capture and put forward that doesn't need to be, followed by habitus. There's beautiful moments of design in the smallest of projects. So, that type of thing, I think you can get some good marketing out of.
Yeah. So just make yourself visible as well. Have a really good social presence, and make sure that the stuff that you're putting on there you're thinking about as well. Don't just sort of post stuff because it looks nice, or lots of stuff. Lots of younger designers will just post lots of other people's stuff. Just style up a vignette at home, take a photo, put it on there. If you have a look at a lot of designers, they've quite often got little home vignettes in their Instagram feeds.
And it's just thinking about what you're doing that day.
Yeah.
It's, and so much of our life is related around design anyway. So you can capture that in those vignettes.
Yeah, totally. So yeah. Okay, so how does...
Everybody just must know new questions coming because we lean in.
So how does professional practice and connections influence Billy Blue course development? So this is an interesting question. We've just finished working on the interiors higher ed diploma here at Billy Blue, or in the process of finishing it now. I would say that the practice that I do influenced that hugely, and even down to getting, Dean in for course advisory committees and things like that, and just getting a real idea of, basically, as part of my role here as a senior academic, I want graduates to be the most useful and professional interior designers and decorators that they can be, and that they need to get that out of the courses that we deliver. And so I think, it's so important for there to be really, really strong industry links, because if there's not, then, everyone's just sort of barking up the wrong tree. So, it's so... I would say that my own professional work and my work here are they're completely entwined, basically. So do you need a bachelor degree to be recognised as a diploma? Okay, I think it depends on what kind of work you want to work in. You know, if you want to work for a really big firm, then a bachelor degree is probably just going to help you. It also, you know, gives you a couple more years to find a sort of sense of maturity as a designer as well, and to also to work out, really nail things like Revit, which are really incredibly useful skills to have in big firms.
Yeah. Particularly when you want to get further into that interior design things and get involved with the question about, you know, your involvement with architects. I think that's where the bachelor can really sort of increase your skill set and that involvement that you can have with architects.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. You know, like it's all about speaking the same language, you know, so the more time you spend studying, the better your language will be, basically. But then having said that, I love our diploma. I truly do. And we've seen some really incredible professionals come out of the diploma, you know, like I'm lucky enough to go to events and run into students who have started up their own practice or, you know, are working in sort of small scale fit outs and things like that. And then we're also very blessed that most of our architectural specifying salespeople that we deal with in different showrooms are ex-students as well. So, you know, so, and I will always say to students, you know, you're likely to meet more people working as a architectural sales rep for, you know, really well established, whether it be fabric or tiles or furniture company. You'll meet more other designers than you will in a basement as a junior, you know, so, you know, sort of drawing bathroom plans.
Yeah. So there's so many different paths that you can take.
Yeah, totally.
And I think that's, as an emerging designer, the question that came up of meeting new clients is, you know, the sales rep side of things can give you the opportunity to make so many good industry connections.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So I think that it's really important to also just not feel like you're locking yourself into one or another, you know, so just make sure that you're it's such a giant industry, basically. I mean, it's small in that most people know each other, but it's giant in terms of the amount of things that you can do and the possibilities that exist within it. And so to be able to really know yourself and then know your flexibility within all those spheres, I think is the really important thing there. So, you know, if you finish the diploma and you want to go out and see if you can get a job and you don't get a job that you love and you think you need a bachelor, go back and do a bachelor, you know, like there's no timeline on this stuff, you know, it's like, I've just finished my master's degree, like it's just, you know, this stuff's just going to keep continuing. Everybody continues to learn. And I think that that's a part of the industry that we really love, you know, so yeah.
Which is kind of a nice way to start winding things up.
Yeah. So I think that we're getting pretty close to the end. I think that someone's been very nice. No worries. We love giving advice, guys. Okay. So yeah.
I think the main thing that I'd like to sort of get across is just, you know, start.
Yeah.
You know, like it's been so rewarding as the partnership that Melissa and I have had as Maxwell and Shirley that, you know, I think you choose your partner well, make sure it's somebody that complements you, and, you know, it's the rewards in terms of, you know, essentially getting commissions, being paid to do something you love is just, you know, one of the most amazing things, you know. It's like, you know, what do you want out of your life? This type of thing's, you know, what I want.
Yeah, totally. So yeah. Okay, well, thanks so much, guys, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye.
Bye-bye.